Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Gemini for February 2017. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, see what's new on my blog, including a new series I'm just about to post or just have posted, depending on when you're watching this, called Astrology and Crystals. So you can see crystals that are great for your sign. So what's going on in the month of February? We have eclipses, which can bring life-changing events, things that come out of the blue, changes in trajectory. We have the Venus retrograde shadow period getting very strong with every day that passes into February. So we're going to talk about how these can affect you. So solar eclipses bring in new energies, but it turns out that this solar eclipse, besides bringing in a new opening, is also ending something, because it's the last eclipse in the cycle of the Pisces Virgo eclipses that started at the beginning of 2015. So something that has been getting worked on in your life is reaching some sort of epic conclusion. And sometimes it takes 4 to 6 months after the actual eclipse for it to integrate, but you can see this kind of coming to an end of something that has been going on at the same time as new possibilities opening. Excuse me. So solar eclipses are like new moons in triplicate. They carry the energy of a new moon, new things, seed planting, times 3. Or, well, yes, it's in triplicate. So sometimes you see one big opening, like a times 3 opening of something, or sometimes you see 3 separate things, opportunities that are opening. The early degree placements are going to experience, okay, so the early and middle degree placements are going to experience the solar eclipse in the 10th house. But what I'm about to describe with the 10th house is still relevant to the late degree placements, because there are lots of planets populating the 10th house that aren't including the solar eclipse transit, but lots of energy in the 10th house. So the things I'm going to point out are true for the late degree placements, even though it's for a different reason. Okay, so I'm calling the theme for Geminis for this month, Headlong Towards Your Dreams. And my affirmation for you, which if you want to see a pretty visual of this, be checking out my Instagram, Annie Botticelli. I think it's spark.anniebotticelli Instagram, because I'm making pretty versions of the affirmations that I'm making for you. So this one is called your affirmation for the month, I throw myself headlong in the direction of my dreams. And that's exactly what the energy wants you to do. So it's kind of an interesting thing, because even though we're cautioning you, and I'll get more into this later, about like doing too much launching, it's not really an energy for launching too much unless it's very obvious that you have to do something with it, because eclipses bring in opportunities and then you have to do something with them. But it's not the kind of thing where you go out and force something. So the throwing yourself headlong in the direction of your dreams may not necessarily include doing a launch. It's just making the commitment, making the intention, giving the attention, making the intention, making the decision to go for something, which may or may not include actually launching something. It depends on if something comes to you that you have to activate, because you don't really want to push something out. It's more of a time to be the spider. I always call the eclipse times to be the spider. And Gemini energy is very busy. It likes to do this and that and this and that and this and that. And sometimes it's hard to draw the line to say when is it time to just kind of focus more internal and domestic. And this would be that kind of time, unless something comes to you, and then the spider, similar in the web, right, will go eat the food that comes to it, but it's not out there trying to go get it. So that's kind of a general theme for this month that we'll get more into also. So I'm calling this energy of throwing yourself headlong in the direction of your dreams because the 10th house has to do with your life purpose. It's your career, it's your work. For some people, career and work are completely different than their purpose, and they keep those separate and want to keep those separate. But many people want to start to align what they're spending 40 or more hours a week doing with what they feel their life purpose is. And so there's a very big story in this for doing that, you know, becoming an authority figure, making friends with authority figures instead of antagonistic relationships with them. Having an opportunity to have accomplishment and fulfillment and recognition is another manifestation of the potentials in the 10th house. Also things going on with father, stepfather, father figure. Occasionally I'll see mom if mom was a really strong male figure in the life, you know, in someone's life. But the energy of healing things around parents. Some people have a great relationship with their parents and don't really feel like there's anything to heal. That's fantastic. Maybe their parents didn't do anything particularly wrong, whatever, or that they think is wrong. Fantastic. But many people have an energy of father that consciously or unconsciously is like the energy of the paternal or authority figure using energy in a way that is not fair, not the proper use of power. And that imprinting on a child that goes deep into the subconscious mind as we get older, it can cause certain people to have an adverse relationship with authority, including sabotaging themselves from becoming authority figures within their lives, within their work, and being in line with their purpose. So there might be some deep healing that has to occur with father-related things. And those of you who have been working on this, you might be surprised to find out that there's still another layer here. You know, there's very often we think something is completed if we've been focusing on it, and we can say, nope, I'm done, I feel good, we've had a healing. But your body does not always stay on the same page as your mental space. Sometimes we come to a mental and intellectual conclusion about something, but there are certain parts of our body that is still holding on to a hurt or a pain. You know, and specifically, I think many people probably were spanked or worse when they were younger, and there's like visceral body memory holding unforgiveness against father and authority figures, and then making that person subconsciously afraid to be an authority figure because they don't want to use their power in the wrong way. This is such a major thing that happens so much, that we unconsciously sabotage ourselves because we don't want to use our power in a way that it was used against us when we were small. And actually, I believe that there's a very strong connection with this and autoimmune diseases, where allegedly the body is attacking itself, but as a child, someone close to the person could have actually been physically attacking them, and the body is still remembering that. So lots of potentials for breakthroughs here in this arena. So the late degree placements are going to have the solar eclipse happen in their 9th house. 9th house has to do with publishing, writing, teaching, learning, editing, different countries, different languages, international business. It has to do with spiritual and religious studies, and basically that energy that looks down at a problem with a different mindset than the problem was created. You know, it's a creative, resourceful, expansive type of thinking. So while I'm going to leave it up to you if you feel drawn to use the I throw myself headlong in the direction of my dreams affirmation, if that feels like right timing for you, I'm also going to add for you, I allow massive miracles to pour into my life. And that's a good affirmation for anyone. But I wrote that one for the energies of the 9th house because I really like that deferring, that surrender to spirit. And the 9th house very much doesn't have to do with logic, you know? It's one of the houses that just has to do with looking at things in a different way. So we can allow miracles to pour into our lives by simply inviting them in. And this is something that you later degree placements really have a strong focus on for this eclipse cycle. But all of the placements really have it because even the middle degree placements, the sun is there. The early degree placements, Mercury and the sun, and even Pluto's there. So once again, even though there's a slight difference in why there's a focus there for early, middle, and late, there's still a similarity. Okay, so now I want to talk about the lunar eclipses and how they could affect the Gemini placements. Lunar eclipses are like full moons in triplicate. So the new moons open up this energy, and the full moons bring completion, fruition, drama. They bring attention to something that needs attention, or a gathering of energy of some kind. Sometimes it's very positive, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's in between. It could be bittersweet. So the early degree placements are going to, well, most of the early degree placements are going to have this solar eclipse in the the lunar eclipse in the fourth house. The rest of the early and middle and late degree placements are going to have it in the third house. So I'm going to focus on the third house, and then I'll give you a piece about the fourth house, because all of you have a chance to have this third house manifestation, and there's some really important things to know in here. You could have something relevant to your car occur from this lunar eclipse cycle. Now, it could be you got a new car, or it could be, something positive and wonderful. But there's also a chance that there could be more of a chance for something to happen to your car and even you in the car. So you have to be really careful. If you haven't already made the commitment to not text and talk and do random things while you're driving, this would be a really good time to do that. And January, February, March are really high times for this, because even though the lunar eclipse is on February 10th, it's at 22 degrees of Leo, we can feel events occur from the eclipse cycle 4 to 6 weeks before and after the actual eclipse. So that's all of January and well into March that this, whatever it is, can occur. I have a special series of things I want to talk about for potentials for this house because of certain experiences I had. We all have areas of our life. You see certain people who tend to always have trouble with their car, and certain people always have trouble with other things. And you can find this in your natal chart. If there are afflictions or there are certain placements, we tend to have to work a little bit harder and have a little more challenges with certain areas of our lives. Historically, the car area was not my area of challenge. And so I've gone, all of my driving life without really significant things going on overall. However, when I had I guess it was the last, I'm trying to think of what year it was quite a bit of time ago now, when the eclipse cycle was occurring in my third house, which rules transportation, I had a snowy bough of a tree come and crush my windshield when it was parked in my driveway. I had my passenger side window break, shatter when I rolled it down. And I had someone else was driving my car, and someone else that we knew fell asleep when they were driving and slammed into the back of my car while I was in it at 40 or 50 miles an hour while we were stopped. Everybody turned out to be fine, but my car was in the shop for a month, and it was a notable event. So after that eclipse cycle, I didn't have anything like that happen. And before that eclipse cycle, I didn't have things like that happening. And, if I looked back, maybe there could have been small things that happened at the previous cycles and years before. But this really, really made me pay attention. And I always think of it when I see lunar eclipses fall in this house, because you have to be more careful of your car. Don't park your car underneath snowy branches. If you don't have windshield coverage and you don't know about this, I learned this through that journey, that if I would have had windshield insurance, which usually just means you have to call and have someone come out and do a free inspection to check out your car, and then you can get this windshield insurance, which means you don't have to pay the deductible if you have something happen to any of your glass in your car. Basically, is glass insurance. And it's often not, it's like a couple of dollars more to your policy. So you could save yourself the $500 deductible if something happens to your windows, if beforehand you take the time to call your insurance company and get this straightened out. So these are the kind of things, that's why I send these videos out really early, so that you can be planning and preparing to just shore up weak links. If you have something up with your car, be proactive, get it taken care of, and things like that. And this also goes for your devices. If you're rolling around with your devices not backed up, or you don't have a password security to get into your devices, or you don't have, a replacement service, or whatever it is, pay attention to how you can protect and secure your devices and your information, because this third house also has to do with technology, things that we communicate with, you know, phones, computers, fax machines, things like that. The third house also has to do with our own physical mobility. So you have to guard yourself more when you're walking around, riding your bike. You know, I was driving today and this kid was walking and texting and totally did not see me coming. And fortunately I saw him and I stopped and was just sort of waiting until he realized what was going on. But you know how often it happens that people are getting hit by cars or whatever, causing accidents because they're texting and walking. Maybe you'll make the decision to not do that. And in any case, at least for January, February, and March, please just be extra careful is the point. So with all that being said, it also could be something exciting, like I said, that comes in without any drama, without anything negative. So it's definitely, I would never intend, you know, I'm not intending to make you afraid. I just want you to be aware. The way that I most describe what I try to do with the horoscopes is like, if grandma is having the kids and the grandkids and the dogs coming over, she would be crazy to leave out her breakables and her white, you know, floor things, right? Because she knows they're coming. So to spare the drama, just put the white things away and put the breakables away, and then let the animals and kids rumble around without being completely stressed out, right? Rather than just having them come like a freight train without realizing they're coming and doing anything, you know, and that's what happens with these transits. If we know what we're working with beforehand, we can do things a little bit differently. So speaking of which, now I want to talk more about how to be the spider with these eclipses, what the Venus retrograde implications can be. I'm calling the general theme of this month for all signs, the tiptoe water test. You know, when you go to the beach or somewhere where there's water, and rather than just jumping right into the water, you stick your toe in, just the tip of your toe, to see what the water temperature is. And unless you're in a very warm climate, usually the water is kind of cold, right? And so maybe you have to put your feet in and then get up to your knees. It makes me think of when I was little. I grew up in New York City, and my cousin, who was like a sister to me more than my cousin, and she was a little bit older than me, and she would taunt me and she'd say, "Stop being such a sissy, just jump in the water." And you know, if you've ever gone swimming in the Atlantic Ocean, it's very cold. So I would put my toe in and say, "Oh gosh, I don't want to go in," you know, and then it would take me time to get used to it. And then she would jump right in. And I'm not saying that in general there's one way of being better than the other. But when we're talking about astrological rhythms at play, this is very poignant because there is a time to jump right in. And there's a time to do the tiptoe water test and go in and get used to it with your ankles, and then slowly go in and get used to it with your knees, you know, etc. And that's the time that we're working with in February, because even though we technically don't have any planets, personal planets, meaning the ones closest to us, like Mercury, Venus, Mars, are usually the ones we talk about being retrograde, the personal planets, we don't have any of that happening technically in February. But we just got past Mercury retrograde and its shadow period, and we've started Venus retrograde shadow period. Venus goes retrograde from March 4th through April 15th. Venus retrograde happens around every year and a half. I definitely recommend you listen to my Venus retrograde video, because Venus rules love, beauty, and money. So everything about relationships and finances and business decisions and artistic journeys and beauty decisions all are housed under this Venus retrograde energy, even in February, because the shadow period has started. So I go into a massive amount of detail about what to do, what not to do, and why in that video that I'm not going to cover in this. So you definitely need to listen to that as a supplement to this video, and really pay attention to that for February, March, and April. So when we're in a shadow period of a retrograde like we are in February, right? It doesn't go retrograde till March 4th, but the shadow period started at the end of January. So the whole month of February, every day we get closer to March, is getting deeper in this Venus retrograde energy. It's kind of like when you go to the beach. If you haven't crossed over the bridge yet to the island that the beach is on, you start seeing little beachwear, you know, tourist places and little tiki huts and things that feel beachy. but you're not at the beach yet, but the beach vibe is there, you know? So that's what a shadow period is like. It's like it starts acting as if you're there, even though you're not officially. And it's very relevant because the same rules pretty much apply for the shadow period as they do for the retrograde. And that is to not jump into anything that's a long-term commitment if you can possibly help it. Now, this is doubly so because this is a rule of the retrogrades, and this is also one of the things that we talk about with eclipses. February holds 2 eclipses. We have a full moon eclipse on February 10th, and we talked about that some. That's the lunar eclipse at 22 degrees of Leo. And we've got that solar eclipse on February 26th, that's at 8 degrees of Pisces. So when we talked about that as well, you know, so the general energy of eclipse is kind of like that be the spider energy. You know, you weave your web and then you let things come to you. And you act as is necessary, but not unnecessarily and not without caution. So that's the story of the energy of February is, you know, you want to tiptoe in, you want to get used to the water, you want to try things on. It's a wonderful time for going back over things. So anything that starts with the word or the prefix RE, you know, redoing, resting, couples therapy is something that's amazing for retrogrades. Going back to romantic places that you've been with your partner before, bringing the magic back, spending more time with your partner, anything that you're kind of returning back to within your relationship. And it doesn't have to only be a challenging thing. Sometimes Venus retrograde can bring up arguments and problems. If there are weak links in your relationship or your money space, they're going to show up because that's the job of the retrograde. But if there's sweetness there as well, then sometimes a return of the magic occurs. So it's a good time to spend more time with your honey. You know, it's not the best time to take on a new romantic relationship or a new financial relationship if you can help it, because you have these rose-colored glasses on as it relates to money and love and beauty and artistic things, expensive items and things like that. You're not seeing clearly, so you don't want to make big decisions. But trying things on, experimenting, making small decisions, being cautious is great. Learning and education is wonderful. Trying on something for a new profession, you know, getting some information or education that might prepare you to do something in the future. All of that is fine for the retrogrades. We just want to keep our commitments to, like, you know, between 4 and 6 months, if possible, you know. Also the same goes for a move. If you have to move or you're trying to do something different, when you move someplace, go into temporary lodging, you know. Don't get there and then buy a house, you know. You're not seeing clearly is the whole point. And when Venus goes direct, you'll look at everything totally differently. So you want to make sure there's wiggle room with the arrangements you've made so that when you see things differently, you're not locked into too much that you then can't shift. See, that's part of the point. So it's an artist's wonderland. Retrogrades are wonderful for doing art. And they can even be great for selling art, especially when you're going back to people or doing things before that you've done for promoting it. Backing up files is one of the single most important things you can do during any retrograde. So many people are going to have their important things lost during retrograde. So if you want to spend the time doing this proactively, I always make these, you know, do these videos early so that you can get prepared for the time. As soon as you're hearing this, it would be good for you to be backing up files. And backing up anything and seeing to security and just kind of getting everything, all your ducks in a row that way. Some sweet energies that will be present, and you can see more about why I'm calling these sweet energies, what planets are at play, etc. when you sign up for my free email newsletter. So if you go to anniehelpsyou.com and you sign up for my free email newsletter, I do a write-up a month early, a written version of the energies ahead with more details about what goes on the certain days that make certain days bring sweetness, and then the challenging days. So the Sweet energies are on the 9th, 10th, 11th, 13th, 14th, 16th, 21st, 23rd, and 26th. Okay, so 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 16, 20, 21, 23, 26. Now also remember when I give you these dates that we can experience transits before or after the actual day they occur. So it's like the days around these days, you can feel the energies that are true to the transits occurring on those days. Before I give you the challenging days, I also want to remind you, if you have already signed up for my free email newsletter and you're not receiving my monthly reports, there is some sort of glitch in many email services that put group emails into your social or promotions folder. So I send these things out like clockwork, like around a month early. Every month I always have, and I will continue to do this. So if you're not getting them, it's possible that they're going either to spam, to your social or promotions or events folders, and you're not even aware of it. So look in those folders and do a search for Annie Botticelli, and you should find some there, very likely. And then you move them into your inbox to let your Gmail or whatever it is, Gmail is infamous for this, know that you want those things into your inbox. Okay, so I've had this happen quite a bit. Okay, so the challenging days are the 2nd, the 5th, 10th, 22nd, 26th, and 27th. 2nd, 5th, 10th, 22nd, 26th, 27th. You might notice that some of these dates are ones I listed for the nice transits, and that is true because there are some challenging aspects that are happening at the same time as there are sweet aspects. So you might get, a mixed bag there. So the themes for the month: tiptoe water test, avoid the deep plunge, try things on, do things short term. You can make decisions as they relate to moving some things along, but not big launches, not big new things, not investing tons of money unless you have it to spare. Definitely check out my Venus retrograde video so you can understand more. The fact that Venus is in Aries through the month is going to make people want to be rambunctious and impulsive, and that's adding to this energy where you're going to want to do something, and it may or may not be the best thing to do. So be the spider. Let things come to you and leave wiggle room with how you activate those potentials. Definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, see my offerings. I teach an astrology apprenticeship program, a course on creating successful online business if you want to be free of your geography and work online. I also have a new coach certification course that includes my online business course if you'd like to be a coach as your profession. I always have new things on my blog, so check it all out at anniehelpsyou.com, and I will see you next month. Bye.